Hey guys, and welcome to Should You Buy It, where all we do is talk a little bit about the game and whether or not we think it's worth the cost.
In this episode, we'll be playing Vampire Survivors, the 2D action roguelike where you will fight off endless waves of monsters and try to survive until the Reaper inevitably ends your run.
Now, the first question that we always cover in these videos is what stage of development is the game in? And in this case, Vampire Survivors is currently in early access and available on PC for $3.
So what exactly is the game? Well, Vampire Survivors is a very simple yet arguably very challenging title. The overall goal is to survive for 30 minutes on every map, complete all the game's challenge modes such as Hyper Mode, and unlock all the characters, maps, and items.
Vampire Survivors' primary gameplay controls and concept are as straightforward as it can get. There are two options for your movement, which are the directional movement style and the joystick-like movement style. Directional movement is controlled with the WASD or the arrow keys and will move you in the diagonal direction as well as the horizontal and vertical directions. Joystick-like movement is usually done by your mouse, and this will allow you to move at the exact angle you want rather than just at a specific angle.
The reason it matters what you choose is because a few weapons in the game such as daggers will fire in the direction you are currently moving in or facing. With that being said though, the vast majority of weapons however are what you would call a fire and forget style of weapon. In other words, they fire at the nearest target and you don't really have to aim them at all.
Now, the weapon variety is small enough for you to learn how each weapon works very quickly, but big enough that you will need to spend plenty of time trying to unlock them all. They all act differently from one another and therefore have some pros and some cons to them. A great example of a high pro and high con weapon is going to be the garlic. Garlic is amazing in the early game since it can one-shot most early game enemies by simply having you touch them. The problem with garlic, however, is that it has low damage and is one of the weaker weapons when you get into the actual late game of your run.
Many weapons also have evolutions to them though. An evolved weapon is a sort of super version of that weapon. For an example, the regular book will spawn around you periodically while the evolved one just never stops. However, for you to get each of these evolutions, you'll first need to find their partnered passive item. You see, aside from the weapons, there are also buff-like items. These can be things like the clover, which will increase your luck, or the duplication ring, which adds 1+ projectile to each weapon that uses projectiles. There are just as many buff items as there are weapons, so I wouldn't feel too concerned about there not being enough.
Lastly are the characters. As you progress through the game and complete runs, you will be rewarded with gold and new unlocks to spend that gold on. Each character comes with its own starting weapon as well as its own passive. For an example, you might get more XP gain, more projectiles, or maybe even a revival upon reaching certain levels within the game depending on which character you're actually playing. An example of a character I personally really enjoyed was Mortasio, as he gives you +1 projectile for every 20 levels you gain up to level 3. This can be extremely overpowered as you progress into the mid and late game, and therefore personally I just really enjoyed him.
Now before we move into the pros and cons, we would like to mention one of our favorite places to buy games, which is Humble Bundle. Now aside from the fact that you can purchase basically any game for PC and console all in one place, and the fact that becoming a Humble Bundle member will earn you tons of free games every month and give you great discounts on purchases, Humble Bundle also gives you the ability to donate to a great cause and help support this channel. If you are interested in getting some great deals on games while supporting charity, check out our link in the description below. With that being said, first and foremost for the pros is the amount of content for the price. With this game costing only $3, you get dozens of hours worth of progression and content, and if you want to completely 100% the game, it's going to be more like 100+ hours in its current state. After that is the no BS nature of the game. The game knows it's a fun roguelike with an arcade-like gameplay, and therefore doesn't bother wasting its time making cool cutscenes or plot. I know some people love plot, but this game was built in such a way that no plot is required. Next up is the arcade-like feel to the game. It's almost like you're playing on an arcade machine, as it gives some absolutely amazing retro vibes. And lastly for the pros is the mechanics. Vampire Survivors knows it's a simplistic game, but that doesn't mean that it can't have plenty of depth. At the beginning, the game seems very simple and straightforward, but as you progress to harder mechanics, more stages, and more weapon unlocks, you will quickly find yourself trying to optimize the perfect build for your run.
Now for the cons. Now the only real con I could even argue for this game is that the graphics are kinda a bit dated. To be fair with you though, this is a $3 title and I don't expect a lot from the graphics, and they do serve their purpose very well. With that being said though, if I had to give the game any way that it can improve right now, it would definitely be in that field.
So now it's time for the rating for the game, and when we rate games, we want to get 1 hour of enjoyment out of every $1 that we spend on the game. So for this game in particular, in Vampire Survivors, we would want to get roughly 3 hours of enjoyment out of the $3 that we spent. And after putting over 24 played hours into this game, we give it 10 out of 10 potatoes.
Vampire Survivors was easily one of the best games we have ever played on this channel, and with a $3 price tag, you simply can't beat the value that it offers. If you do end up not liking the game by chance, then you can simply not buy a single coffee the next time you go to McDonald's, and you will have recouped more than the full cost of the entire game. Everything about the game felt like the developers asked themselves, is this fun, rather than is this what we envisioned the game to be, or is this what will sell more copies? And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of AAA titles have got wrong lately. The progression and sheer amount of content that this game offers keeps you wanting to come back and play it time and time again. Therefore, we feel that it is safe to say that Vampire Survivors is without a doubt worth the cost.
Before you guys go, thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy the video, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe for more survival game content. A big shout out to all of our members and subscribers, and don't forget to check out our links in the description below for things like our music library and Epic Games creator code, as these are just ways for you to help support the channel. Otherwise, thank you again so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.